What's happening, Chief? You never believe it, do you? When you get validation, when you get a nugget of self-confidence from other people, there's always that level of doubt, or you want to explore it. Maybe your brain tells you, are they just saying that? Do they actually really mean it? And even if you do believe them, it's never enough. It's like throwing some small, weak sticks into a fire. It will burn up, maybe even quickly. It might fuel the fire very temporarily, but not properly. Validation is sticks, dry grass, self-love, self-respect. That's the core of the fire. That's proper oak wood. That's the stuff you chop down and work for. People can throw compliments into your fire, but it needs to be burning off you. Do you understand? You crave validation because you don't believe it. You don't believe in yourself, more specifically. These things that people tell you about yourself when they do. Because people don't really want to validate all the time. We're very selfish creatures. But you don't really believe them because you want them to respect you. You want them to like you, and you want them to think you're impressive. But that's not going to happen if you don't believe that you're impressive. If you don't like yourself, if you don't respect yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? You crave validation because we are creatures that are very social. You could call it a tribe mindset if you wish. It's a state where we're all analysing our position in our little social groups. And even if you don't want to be there, like it's a job you hate or at school, you are constantly analysing where you are. You crave validation because that is telling your subconscious that you've been accepted. That people respect you, that you have a higher position in your tribe, right? But you also crave validation because it fills that hole of self-doubt. You're looking to get that identity that you want from other people. You think if you make your boss really proud, your teacher, your friend, your crush, they're going to give you that compliment that will complete you. But while compliments are nice, never lasts long, does it? It's like when someone compliments you, say you look nice or that you're dressed well, it can boost your ego for the moment, but you almost want them to keep saying it. Because you can't hold on to that compliment for the next day because maybe you look bad tomorrow. That's what your brain will tell you. And that's the thing. Validation is such a short-term ego boost, and that's the thing. The ego is the story you tell yourself about yourself. Confidence comes from knowing something. If you know that you are someone that should be respected, or you know you like yourself, you know you're a hard worker. Yes, you might. Everyone loves validation. It's lovely to hear lovely things, right? But you won't need it. People's validation and nice words isn't going to fix a problem that needs to come from within. The solution needs to come from within. So how do you, let's go back to the fire analogy, how do you start that fire? Well, the reason I think it's a good analogy is because when I'm talking about proper firewood, that takes time to cultivate. You don't just pick up some sticks from a bush and then make a fire out of that. I mean, you can, but it won't last very long. Firewood has to be chopped, dried, chopped up so it is an appropriate level of burning, stored, and then with the right formation and the right time and patience, you can make a very strong fire that can burn indefinitely as long as you keep feeding it. So what is the real life equivalent of the firewood? How do you give yourself validation? How do you give yourself confidence? Lad, the firewood represents that delayed gratification, that represents the hard work that you are going to have to put into yourself, because respect is earned. You're not going to like yourself every day, but you can respect yourself most days. But who do you want to identify as? What did I say about the ego? It's the story you tell yourself about yourself. So it's time to change the narrative. Huh? Do you want to identify as the lazy guy? Addicted to validation? Or do you want to identify as the guy that has his own back? That works hard, that goes to the gym, that is working and hustling every day, that is trying to better himself, because the only way to get there is to start doing it. To start telling yourself you already are that person, to live as that person. Because when your ego is on your side and your confidence, that's the perfect balance. Now, so it's a different video for a different day to not let your ego get out of control, but let's focus on one step at a time. So, the firewood, the chopping down the wood, that's doing the work itself. That's respecting yourself. For me to respect myself, I need to, most of the time, I can let myself away with a few degenerate activities every now and then, but most of the time I need to be working towards something. I need to be staying consistent, providing value to myself, to others. Staying humble and trying to learn. I need to be pushing past the little wimp in my head telling me to skip the gym, telling me to sleep in, telling me to do less now, do more tomorrow. Because there's always tomorrow, do you know what I mean? It's most likely it's the same for you. If you, right now, if you're scrolling YouTube, you probably feel lethargic and quite terrible. If you go to the gym right now, or do whatever equivalent, a hard home workout, you won't enjoy it because your brain has already used so much dopamine. But if you get to the end of it and you really push yourself, sweat, you might even feel like you're in hell if you're not particularly healthy, you will respect yourself afterwards. That little nugget of respect represents one little bit of firewood. You have chopped up a bit of firewood. You've chopped up a bit of a tree, so to speak. And the more firewood you have, the closer you are to burning your own fire, which represents your own self-love. But like a fire needs to always be tended to, when you stop. So if you build a strong enough fire, you might be able to leave it for a bit. You know, you have a day of maybe being a degenerate. You shouldn't do it. The fire will grow a bit weaker, but it's still burning. Maybe you have to hustle harder the next day to get some more firewood, but the fire is still burning. But the longer you leave it, the more you indulge in these weak activities, the more likely the firewood is going to run out of stock. And your fire is going to burn out. And if your fire burns out, then you can make a new one. But you have to build up that respect all over again. The fire burning represents how you see yourself. One day is not going to change how your subconscious views you. So we see that on both ways. If you have one really productive day, but for the majority of the week you are a little wimp, you're going to be a little wimp that is occasionally productive. But if you are always productive, but occasionally you're a degenerate, you're going to be a productive guy that sometimes does stupid things. Which one would you rather identify with? You're not going to get it from validation. Get out there and tend to your fire, chief. And while you're doing it, say less. Do more. See you tomorrow.